Discover the incredible truth about Chevy. 3 life-changing boons exposed that will shock you. Jake never thought he'd wind up like this, a devoted single father, standing beneath the flickering neon sign of his family's auto repair shop, feeling the weight of his responsibilities carve deeper lines into his face. When he read those bold words on a flyer at the diner, a shiver ran down his spine. The corporate dealership just down the road wanted to take everything he held dear, and the stakes couldn't be higher. For him, this wasn't just about cars. It was about the legacy his father left behind, a legacy of loyalty and hard work. Now hanging by a thread, as he wiped grease from his hands, he glanced at his kids playing near the shop in trance, their laughter ringing like music to his ears. He felt a swell of pride. He was determined to give them a life better than the one he had known. But the threat of the dealership loomed like a heavy fog. The unshakable belief in the Chevy vehicles that had passed through his garage gave him hope. Each car that rolled in brought stories, memories shared between neighbors that connected them like threads in an intricate tapestry. He recalled Mrs. Henley, who dropped her Chevy off every month for a tune-up. Her smile lit up the room, her gratitude palpable, her trust in him unwavering. It was these connections he cherished. "I'll always come back to you, Jake," she had assured him, and that promise echoed in his heart. How could the world forget? How could they choose a lifeless dealership over genuine service? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Fires of determination flickered in Jake's eyes. The annual local fair was the perfect stage. He envisioned the townsfolk gathered around, sharing their stories of Chevy and their beloved old vehicles while he showcased his skills. He rallied the community, reminding them of their roots, of how the Chevrolet name hadn't just been about cars. It had been about sweat, hard work, and family bonds that stretched for miles. But as the preparations began, Jake felt a weight more profound than any wrench he'd ever lifted. His brother, a successful corporate exec, reappeared. A reminder of everything Jake despised: corporate greed, the relentless chase for profit. Their conversations held a sting, each word laced with unspoken resentments. Could he ever bridge the gap? As the day of the fair approached, tension simmered. He could feel it, brewing like a summer storm. "We can't let them win," he whispered to himself, clenching his fist. The town had to remember the importance of togetherness, of what they stood for. But deep inside, the looming confrontation with his brother and the dealership left his heart churning. Would anyone listen to him? Would they reclaim what truly mattered? As he stood before the community gathered at the fair, the air thick with anticipation, a sudden crash shattered the moment. Gasps filled the air. The weight of unresolved grievances hung just above him, threatening to crush everything he had worked for. Could he really unite his family and his town against the tide of corporate indifference? Or would he be forced to pick a side? The crowd's murmur quickly turned into chaos as people rushed to see what had happened. Jake's heart raced, a mix of fear and anger flooding through him. He spotted a crushed Chevy pickup lying on its side, steam rising from under the hood, its owner, Mr. Talbot, staring in disbelief. "Is everyone okay?" Jake shouted, pushing his way through the throngs of anxious faces. The smell of burnt rubber hung thick in the air, mingling with a hint of smoke. He could feel people's eyes on him, a united desperation feeding his resolve. "Just my pride and a few scrapes," Mr. Talbot replied, his voice shaky but relieved. "I thought I could steer clear of the chaos." But Jake was already moving, assessing the damage and the panic. He gathered a few of his young mechanics, urging them to help right the truck with a makeshift plan. They worked in unison, a flurry of quick hands and worried glances, as he called for rope and leverage. With determination shining in their eyes, the community's spirit began to rise from the ashes of panic. "I've seen worse," Jake encouraged as he crouched beside Mr. Talbot, his hands working efficiently. "Once you've been through a few hard knocks, you learn to bounce back. Like a Chevy truck." The words carried weight. Maybe there was hope in this moment. Community members joined in, lending arms and voices to the rescue effort. Laughter began to cut through the tension when little Clara, Jake's youngest, grabbed a rope and shouted, "Can't let some fancy dealership outshine my dad." The sight of her smiling face reminded him why he fought for this shop, for his family, for the legacy of trust that his father had built. He locked eyes with Clara, and in that moment, he understood that Molly, the emotional heart of the town, was right beside him in spirit. Every drop of sweat and spilled grease led to this moment the belief that together they could overcome any corporate challenge. Finally, with one last heave, they righted the truck. Cheers erupted, a sound that echoed his racing heartbeat. He turned to face the crowd, breathless but filled with an electrifying rush. This was the connection he had longed for. This was his community coming together, demonstrating the very resilience he sought to instill. But a shadow crossed his mind as he spotted his brother standing at the edge of the fairgrounds, a disapproving frown plastered across his face. The glimmer of discontent flickered in his eyes as he shrugged against the tide of happiness enveloping the scene. Jake's heart sank. There was more at stake than just the truck. "What do you want?" Jake shouted, stepping towards his brother, the air crackling with tension. People hushed. Every breath felt like it carried the weight of 1,000 expectations. "Let us talk, Jake." In private, he responded, his tone frosty but not devoid of concern. With the crowd still buzzing, Jake hesitated. Was this a moment that could shatter everything he had fought for? He had a choice to make: the love of his brother or loyalty to the town that had always been his heart. As he stood there, the weight of both futures as unsteady as the overturned truck hung in the air. Would he find common ground with his brother, or would he have to choose loyalty to a community that was counting on him? What would it cost him in the end? Jake paused, the pressing need to act clashing against the weight of family loyalty. The crowd's energy thrummed around him, a living pulse of hope and togetherness, but his brother's face darkened the moment with a cloud of uncertainty. "Come on, Jake," his brother called again, frustration edging into his voice. This isn't the time for this. But how could he turn away from the very people who had stood by him? He turned back to the crowd, who were beaming with triumph after the truck's revival. Clara was beaming, her little arms raised in victory, and he couldn't help but smile at her infectious joy. This community was his support system, the people who made it worthwhile to carry on the family legacy. The choice crystallized in front of him. "Just a minute," he shouted back to his brother, the resolve in his voice steady. "I'll be there." "Jake," his brother hissed, voice low and sharp enough to slice through the cheerful atmosphere. He squared his shoulders and returned to the throng, where laughter mingled with cheers. It struck him how deeply intertwined their lives were. This wasn't just a mechanic shop. It was a sanctuary, a beacon for those seeking stability in a sea of uncertainty. Each face told a story, and there stood Jake, feeling the weight of their trust hang in the balance. He addressed the crowd, hands raised to quiet the celebrating voices. "Thank you, everyone. Today, we showed just how strong we are together." Applause erupted, filling the chilly air with warmth. Their energy fueled him, sending waves of pride rushing through him. But then he noticed something. Just beyond the crowd, his brother was watching, arms crossed, eyes cold. Jake's chest tightened. There was a part of him that understood the unspoken words, years of festering resentment. They had grown up together but had drifted apart under the pressures of life as choices. Casting one last glance at the group, he stepped away from the bustling crowd and toward the edge of the fairgrounds. Each step felt like walking a tightrope, with the love of his brother on one side and the loyalty to the town on the other. "What's so important that you had to drag me away from them?" Jake asked, not hiding the strain in his voice. "I'm just saying, if you keep this up, you're going to lose everything," his brother replied harshly. "It was just a truck. People get into accidents. It doesn't mean you have to play hero." Jake felt his heart race, his voice rising with passion. "It's not about the truck. It's about what this community means to me. They're counting on me." His brother's eyes narrowed, a flicker of something hurt, perhaps. "And what about us? You're trying to fix the world, but what about your own house? You think any of them would step in when it's your turn to struggle?" The sharpness of those words cut deeper than he expected. Suddenly, all the community applause felt hollow, and Jake's chest tightened with guilt and frustration. His brother was right. He had buried himself in the shop, in the people, almost as if to escape something. Silence fell as Jake searched for a way to bridge the chasm. He wanted to reassure his brother, to show he valued family too. But how could he find a way to balance both hearts? As uncertainty loomed, he realized their conversation had only just begun. Could they patch their frayed bond while he nurtured this community, or was he destined to lose them both? The questions hung heavy in the air like the lingering steam from the truck's hood. What decision would Jake make that could alter his path forever? Jake's breath halted as the weight of his brother's words crashed over him. The swell of applause behind him faded into a murmur. He turned slowly, taking in the faces of those who had come together in celebration. Each person had their hopes tied to what he was doing. But standing between him and this moment was the brother he had always considered his rock, the one person who had once shared those dreams. "I'm not trying to be a hero," Jake said softly, dragging his gaze back to his brother's angry stare. "I just want to be part of something bigger. I want to help. Helping is one thing. Drowning yourself in it is another," his brother shot back. "You're losing yourself, Jake. You're losing your family." The frustration ignited something in Jake. He took a step forward, his hands clenched. "What do you suggest I do? Just ignore the needs of those around me? Pretend I don't see what is happening? Just make time for us. For your family." The vulnerability in his brother's voice cracked through Jake's defenses. Did he really want to lose the one person who had been with him through thick and thin? Love battled with anger inside him. "I get it. You want me to help you, but I can't just drop everything for my family when the community needs me too." The piercing silence that followed was thick with tension. Stars flickered above them, a stark contrast to the turmoil between the brothers. He could almost hear the crowd behind him, buzzing with joy, unaware of the storm brewing just a few feet away. Feeling overwhelmed, Jake rubbed a hand across the stubble on his chin. "What do you want from me?" he finally asked. "What do you want to hear?" "The truth," his brother replied, his voice quieter now, almost pleading. "I want you to realize you can't fix everything on your own. You have to let us in." Jake felt a lump rise in his throat. The truth was he didn't know how to let anyone in anymore. Years of hard work had created barriers around him, each one forged in sweat and tears. He had carved a space in this world to avoid the chaos at home. But now, standing in the moonlit field with his brother, he saw the cracks in their bond. "I miss us," he admitted, the admission bitter on his tongue. "I miss the days when all we cared about were those old trucks and dreaming of our future." His brother's expression softened. "Then let us work on that. Together." Jake nodded slowly, the flicker of hope igniting within him. Maybe they could find a way through this. Maybe both family and community could exist side by side in his life. As they stood there in the quiet of the night, Jake knew the road would be rocky. He would have to face those difficult emotions he'd buried along with his past fear, guilt, and uncertainty. But then a loud cheer erupted from the crowd, shattering the tranquil moment. Clara's laughter rang out like a bell, cutting through the air and spilling over into Jake's heart. "Let us go back," his brother said, almost mesmerized. Jake hesitated, a familiar uncertainty swirling once more in his chest. Could he balance his love for the community with the family that needed him? He took a deep breath, turning back toward the lights and laughter. The sounds pulled him in, beckoning like a siren's song. But deep down, he felt one last question tugging at him, a whisper of hidden truths. What sacrifices would he have to make to keep both sides of his life intact? As he moved toward the crowd, Jake realized the struggle was just beginning. This was a journey, one that might lead him to places he didn't expect, both in his heart and in his community. Would he finally find the balance? The atmosphere was electric as Jake stepped back into the crowd, the noise wrapping around him like a warm embrace. Faces lit with cheer, laughter bubbling in clusters, reminded him of all he had fought for. Yet his brother's words echoed in the back of his mind, urging him to remember the ties that bound him to his family. Clara stood at the center of the crowd, her infectious smile lighting up her pretty face. She spotted him, and her eyes sparkled. "Jake, you made it back. Come join us." Her voice was bright, a beacon cutting through the chaos. Jake pushed through the throng, feeling the energy pull him closer. But as he approached her, a pang of guilt struck him. How could he be enjoying this moment while knowing the weight of his brother's heartache? Did he really have the right to revel in laughter while family tensions simmered beneath the surface? Clara reached him and instantly wrapped her arms around him. "You should have seen the fireworks. They were amazing." She stepped back, her enthusiasm palpable, but Jake struggled to match her excitement. "That's great," he replied, forcing a smile. But he knew his heart wasn't in it. Behind his facade, he felt that familiar knot in his stomach, the tension coiling tighter as his brother's silhouette loomed large in his mind. "Let us grab some drinks and find a spot to watch the next round," Clara suggested, pulling him toward the refreshment table. As they moved through the crowd, Jake caught sight of his brother lingering at the edge, staring off into the distance. For a brief moment, their eyes met, and Jake felt an unspoken connection, a mix of longing, understanding, and regret. He could feel the gulf widening between them again, the weight of expectations and disappointment pressing harshly against his chest. "Hey, are you okay?" Clara's voice brought him back. She was watching him closely, concern etched on her features. "You seem a little lost." Jake took a breath, trying to find the words. It's just everything right now feels so complicated. How could he explain to her the battle raging inside his heart? The way he felt pulled in two directions, both wanting to embrace the joy of the celebration and yet aching for the family he felt slipping away. "Complicated how?" Clara asked, her eyes gentle and patient. She reached out, her hand resting on his arm in a way that brought warmth and comfort. "I want to do right by the community. I want to help, but I don't want to hurt my brother. He has been there for me through everything." Clara nodded, her expression shifting to one of understanding. "It sounds like you're in a tough spot, but you can't lose yourself in either side. You have to figure out what you need too, Jake." He glanced at her, realizing how much her words resonated. "You're right, but what if I end up losing both? Then you'll have to work on it," she replied, determination sparking in her voice. "Love is a two-way street. You can care for both your family and the community, but you have to communicate. You have to let both sides know how you feel." Jake mulled over her words. Could it really be as simple as talking? Would being vulnerable to both parts of his life be enough to keep everything he held dear intact? The crowd erupted in cheers again, the fireworks bursting brightly above, momentarily distracting him. For a moment, he allowed himself to savor the shared joy, but the duality of his life still weighed heavily on his heart. As the sparkling colors faded in the night sky, Jake felt resolve building inside him. The struggle wouldn't be easy, but maybe he could start by letting his brother in, just like Clara suggested. "Thanks, Clara," he said, feeling the warmth of hope blooming alongside the uncertainty. "I think I need to talk to him." As he made his way back into the crowd, the cheers fading, a new question emerged. Would he have the courage to confront his fears and mend the bonds that were fraying? Or would he find himself trapped in a cycle of neglect? With every step toward his brother, Jake felt the weight of the challenge ahead, but also the thrill of possibility that came with facing truths long buried. Jake's heart raced as he navigated through the crowd, each step feeling heavier. He caught glimpses of joyful faces, unaware of the emotional storm brewing within him. He couldn't shake the image of his brother, alone and distant. The laughter around him felt almost mocking, a reminder of the divide growing between family and community. He finally reached the edge of the gathering, where his brother stood, his back turned, lost in the festivities he chose to ignore. Jake cleared his throat, preparing himself for the confrontation. "Hey, can we talk?" The words emerged, slightly shaky, but he forced them out. His brother turned slowly, surprise flashing across his face before it settled into a guarded expression. "What is there to talk about?" he replied, the edge in his voice unmistakable. The rejection stung, but Jake pressed on. "I need to know where we stand. You've been quiet, and I can't just brush it aside anymore." "Stand," his brother echoed, bitterness coating his words. "You've decided to chase after some big dreams while I'm stuck here trying to hold everything together. What is there to stand on?" Jake felt anger flare up, but quickly tamped it down. "I'm trying to do both. I want to help the community and be there for you. I thought we could work on this together." His brother scoffed, shaking his head. "You don't get it, do you? It feels like you've already made your choice. You want to be the hero, the one everyone loves. Meanwhile, I'm left holding the bags. You know that's not what I want." Jake pleaded, taking a step closer. "You're my brother. I need you to believe that I care." Caring is showing up, his brother shot back. "Not reliving the glorious past while I'm here, trying to keep things afloat." Silence fell between them, heavy and thick, filled with unsaid words. Jake took a deep breath, trying to reach for a sense of calm amidst the storm. You're right. I haven't been here like you need me to be. But I want to change that. I want us to figure this out. A moment of hesitation passed. Jake could see his brother's eyes softening just a little, uncertainty flickering like the fireworks that still crackled in the sky. I don't know if this can be fixed, his brother finally said, his tone less harsh, revealing a vulnerability Jake hadn't seen in a long time. I feel like you don't see how hard this has been for me. I do see it, Jake replied earnestly. I know things are tough, and I can't pretend to understand everything you've been through. But we're family. I believe we can find our way back to each other. Jake's heart raced, feeling the weight of his words hanging in the air. Was this the breakthrough he had been hoping for? The chance to heal the rift that had formed between them? He searched his brother's face for any sign of hope, any indication that he might be willing to fight for their connection. Let us take it one step at a time, he added softly, not wanting to push too hard. His brother's expression shifted, as if he was weighing Jake's words. The ongoing celebration blurred into dim background noise, and for the first time, Jake could see a flicker of warmth in his brother's gaze. I don't want to lose you either, he finally admitted, the fight within him fading. But as the tension began to ease, and they both took a tentative step towards reconciliation, a commotion erupted from the core of the crowd. Shouts of surprise filled the air, drawing their attention away. Jake instantly knew that whatever it was big, and likely overshadowed by everything they had just started to mend. What now? His brother muttered. The moment of connection slipping away like sand through fingers, Jake felt unease unfurling inside him. Let us find out together? Would this unforeseen distraction draw them apart again, or could it lead to something larger that might pull them back together? The night held too many unanswered questions, and as they turned to face the crowd, anticipation hung thick between them. As they moved closer to the source of the commotion, the chatter of the crowd grew louder, a mixture of confusion and excitement. Jake felt a rush of adrenaline. Whatever was going on, it was enough to pull everyone's attention, and he had to wonder if his brother would allow this moment to slip away. Jake turned to his brother, whose expression was a blend of skepticism and curiosity. Let us see what is happening, Jake urged, his voice steady. His brother hesitated but then nodded, his eyes reflecting the flicker of interest. They pushed through the gathering, weaving past families and friends. A surge of energy pulsed through the air, and Jake couldn't help but feel the collective hope surrounding them. As they reached the front of the crowd, they paused at the edge of a makeshift stage where a local community leader stood, microphone in hand. The leader's face was beaming, infused with an infectious enthusiasm. Ladies and gentlemen, the leader shouted, drawing everyone's attention. You're in for a special surprise tonight. We have an announcement that will change everything. Jake felt his heart leap as anticipation filled the air like fireworks. He glanced at his brother, who seemed momentarily entranced. What do you think it is? Jake asked, but he could see his brother's face remain unyielding, still unsure about these public joys. The leader continued, in light of all you've done for our community, we are proud to announce a grant that will support local businesses and initiatives. It's a collaborative effort to revitalize our downtown area and bring back the spirit we all missed. The crowd erupted into cheers, the sound rippling across Jake's chest. This was huge, the chance for growth, healing, and togetherness. In that moment, Jake seized the courage he had almost lost in their earlier argument. This could be it, the revitalization we've been needing. He enthused, looking at his brother with wide eyes, his brother's brow furrowed. Sounds great, but how do we fit into all of this? Jake didn't know how to answer. He felt a flood of possibilities wash over him, but each potential path carried uncertainties. We could help together. You know the ins and outs of this community better than anyone. If we join forces, we can make something amazing happen. His brother's expression softened briefly, a spark igniting in his eyes. Together? He echoed, almost incredulously. Jake nodded fiercely, his hopes surging. Just like we talked about. No fighting, just family and community. Before he could say more, the applause in the crowd surged again, punctuating the moment. The leader was escalating the excitement with promises of workshops, collaboration, and open forums for community input. This was a fresh start, and Jake felt the urgency to seize the moment. Come on, let us go talk to him, Jake suggested, nudging his brother forward. Feeling the spark of enthusiasm return as they pressed into the crowd as they approached the stage, another voice cut through the noise. A woman shouted from the back, her tone riddled with dissent. What about the issues that haven't been addressed? The trust that's been broken? We can't just throw money at it. Jake turned, his heart sinking. The woman's challenges echoed some of his own fears. What if this grant didn't change anything? What if it only spotlighted past grievances? Was this truly the solution? Or were the fractures within the community too deep? He glanced at his brother, whose face mirrored his own uncertainty, split between the dream of hopeful change and lingering doubts. Do you think we can talk to her, too? Jake asked, fighting to keep the enthusiasm from draining away. His brother hesitated, the spark dimming slightly. Do we have a choice? Let us rethink what this community means to us, together. Just then, the crowd surged, moving toward the stage in waves of optimism and resentment. The night felt charged with promise and tension, both threads woven tightly together, setting the stage for what was to come. As they stood on the precipice of possibility, Jake couldn't shake the nagging feeling that this was only the beginning. What if the clash of voices ignited something more profound than they anticipated? Would they be able to navigate the intricacies of rebuilding their family ties amidst a community divided? Jake took a deep breath, ready to step into the fray, trusting that whatever happened next would be worth the leap. Jake felt the energy of the crowd shift as they surged forward, enthusiastic voices blending into a chaotic melody. He could see the community leader gesturing wildly on the stage, drawing in the audience even more. Each clap, each cheer felt like a heartbeat, resonating deep within him, but the voice of dissent hung in the back of his mind like a storm cloud. The woman's words still echoed in the space around him. What about the issues that haven't been addressed? They were questions he had wrestled with himself. Was this new beginning simply a shiny cover for old wounds? Let us go? Jake moved, pushing through the crowd with a newfound resolve. His brother followed, albeit tentatively, but Jake could see the conflict playing across his face as they made their way to the back of the crowd. The woman who had spoken earlier was still there, arms crossed as she listened to the crowd. She wore a determined expression. Jake approached cautiously. Hey, can we talk? She turned to him, surprise flickering across her features. You want to talk? Her tone was skeptical, but it was clear she hadn't turned him away just yet. Yeah, Jake glanced back at his brother. We believe in our community, but we're worried too. Can you tell us what you're thinking? The woman unfolded her arms, and for a moment, it seemed like a wall was coming down. I just want to make sure we're not overlooking the deeper issues. We've seen too many promises like this before. What is going to happen when the funds run out? Jake could feel his heart racing. I understand, but this time feels different. There's support behind it. Real support from people ready to back it up. What if we could work together to address those concerns? His brother piped in, gathering courage. I get it. The last thing we need is a facade. But maybe if we join forces we could ensure our voices are heard too. The woman studied them, her expression shifting. You really want to make a difference? You don't just want to stand in the background? Exactly, Jake affirmed, his voice stronger now. We're ready to listen and help push for what matters. With that, the fire in her eyes flickered a little brighter. All right then. If you're serious, let us figure this out. But we need more than just talk. We need a plan. Jake nodded vigorously. This was the beginning of something. He could feel it. Just then, the community leader on stage called for the crowd's attention again. We're going to have sign-up sheets for anyone who wants to help with the initiative. We want you involved from the ground up. A wave of murmurs swept through the crowd, and the woman leaned in. See that? Some people are just looking for a way to feel included. We need to ensure that the right voices are at the table. Jake felt the momentum building, like a tidal wave of possibility. Let us get our names on that list. He nodded toward the leader. We'll be part of this change. As they stepped into the surge of people toward the stage, Jake felt an electric thrill coursing through him. They were not just participants. They were becoming catalysts for this change. He locked eyes with his brother, and for the first time, they both shared the same hope, but doubt lingered like a shadow at the edges. Would they really be able to make an impact? Or would this effort fizzle just as others had in the past? The throaty cheer of the crowd grew louder as more people gathered near the stage. Jake felt a mixture of hope and fear entwined deep in his gut. They were stepping into unknown territory, ready to take risks for their community and for their family. As they joined the throng and reached for the sign-up sheet, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the tip of the iceberg. Would this be the fight that would not only mend their community, but also their family bond? Or would the cracks only widen as they ventured deeper into their aspirations? While the excitement buzzed around him, an unsettling question loomed. Would they have the strength to face the challenges that lay ahead? The moment of truth was just around the corner. Jake grabbed the clipboard with shaking hands, the ink barely drying as he scribbled their names. His brother glanced over his shoulder, his brow furrowed in concentration. The crowd around them cheered even louder, almost drowning out their thoughts. It felt surreal. Just moments ago, they had been on the sidelines, uncertain. Now, they were gearing up for action. "Done," Jake said, passing the clipboard back to the organizer at the table. But the surge of excitement quickly transformed to a mix of hope and fear as he caught a glimpse of the woman still standing nearby. She looked different now, fired up and galvanized. "What is next?" Jake asked, straightening his back to match her intensity. "Now we organize," she replied, her voice steady. "We need to get people together and start addressing those issues." Her determination was infectious. "I think a community meeting is a great first step." Jake felt a fire ignite in him. "Let us do it." He turned to his brother, who nodded cautiously, but with a spark of interest in his eyes. Jake could sense his brother weighing the risks against the possibilities, and it thrilled him to think they might be in this together. "Great. I know a place," the woman exclaimed. "The old community center could use a revival. We can get the word out, and let everyone know we'll be talking about the real issues, not just the placeholders." His brother stepped forward. "How soon?" he asked. His voice held more strength, and Jake basked in this newfound unity between the three of them. "Next week should work," she said, already moving into planning mode. "We'll need flyers, and I can post on social media. Can you two help spread the word?" "Absolutely," Jake replied instantly, his heart racing again. For the first time, it felt like they were actually making something happen. They were more than spectators, they were part of a movement. They exchanged information and brainstormed ideas. A feeling of disbelief washed over Jake. Could they really change things? His mind reflected on the stories he had heard, the struggles that had long haunted the community. Each meeting they would hold echoed with the hopes of everyone who had once felt ignored. He thought of his parents, the sacrifices they made, and it suddenly became personal. "People need to feel empowered," he said slowly, his voice steadying. "It's not just about the money or the plans. It's about trust. We need to show them that we care, that we're willing to fight for what matters." The woman met his gaze, a glimmer of respect in her eyes. "Exactly. We can't repeat the cycle. We need to be proactive." Jake nodded firmly. This was it. They were building a bridge, not just for their community, but for themselves too. Perhaps all those old wounds could begin to heal if they worked hard enough. The thought made his chest swell with hope. As they wrapped up their planning, the crowd around the stage began to disperse. But Jake's bubble of enthusiasm didn't wane. He needed to take this home to his family. He could imagine sitting around the dinner table, sharing his plans, inviting their support. Maybe they would rally behind him. But just as he took a step away, a shadow crossed his path. A familiar face in the crowd, someone who had always been critical of his efforts. "Jake," the man called out, his tone clipped. "You think this will really make a difference? How long before it all falls apart again?" Jake hesitated, the weight of his past insecurities creeping back in. "We're trying," he said quietly, but in that moment, doubt clawed at his heart. He could feel the fragile thread of hope trembling beneath the pressure of scrutiny. Was he really ready for this fight? The challenge ahead felt taller now, with eyes watching closely and not all of them filled with belief. As Jake moved toward his brother and the woman, a single thought pulsed in his mind. Could this new venture withstand the storm? The moment of truth was coming, and he had to determine whether he had the courage to face it. Jake stood there at the edge of the crowd, feelings swirling inside him like leaves caught in a whirlwind. The events of the night had churned up so much: the excitement of the community's announcement, the rekindling bond with his brother, and the shared yearning for progress. Yet doubt lingered like a shadow at the corner of his mind. The people around him buzzed with hope, but how could he help to lift that hope into something real, something sustainable? As the festivities began to settle down, Jake felt the pull of responsibility tighten around his heart. Can we really do this? He thought. His brother turned to him, shadows of uncertainty still flitting across his face, but softened by something else, an ember of belief that things could indeed change. Are we really ready for this? He asked, his voice low but edged with curiosity. Yes, we need to be. Jake replied instinctively, his heart pressing through each word. The community needs to feel that they have something to trust again. They're right to question it, but we can't let fear hold us back. He could see his brother's eyes flicker with that familiar spark of determination mixed with doubt. You're passionate about this, his brother acknowledged, a hint of admiration surfacing. Jake took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of acceptance from his brother surrounding him. Let us get this meeting off the ground then, together, and let us prove we can make a difference. A smile broke free from his brother's lips, and Jake felt the knot in his chest begin to loosen. They moved through the crowd again, a united front. Somewhere in the distance, Clara's laughter broke through, reminding Jake of the little ones looking up to them not just for answers, but for action. As they began to inspire others to sign up for the community meeting, the thread of hope wove deeper into their lives. They saw faces light up as people started to form connections, sharing ideas, and even laughter mixed with the fears that loomed large. Each moment built upon the last and pulled Jake deeper into purpose. But it was the woman, the voice of dissent, who truly inspired him to push harder. She stepped forward, her resolve unwavering. Let us not just focus on the problems, but solutions. We can make real changes, she said passionately. A surge of energy flowed through Jake. You're right. Together, let us draft a plan. As the three of them dug into the details, tackling concerns and rewriting fears into action steps, the promise of a renewed community began to take shape. Finally, as the sun dipped below the horizon and stars began to twinkle overhead, Jake stepped back. He looked at the crowd, a wave of faces that held hope, determination, and unity. This was the legacy he had wanted to cultivate, not just for him, but for every child who would grow up among these bonds. Thank you, everyone, for believing with us tonight. Jake's voice rang out over the crowd, who responded with raucous cheer. This is just the beginning. Together, we are building not just a community, but a family. With those words, he felt the warmth of shared responsibility and the unmistakable sense that they could do anything as long as they stood side by side. And maybe, just maybe, he had learned to balance both sides of his life, family and community, each step drawing them closer. Jake's heart swelled with pride and possibility. He caught sight of Clara rushing toward him, her arms flailing in excitement. Dad, did you see? Everyone is joining in. We're like an unstoppable team. In that moment, he realized the true power of trust and connection. Tears of joy filled his eyes as he hugged his daughter tight, feeling the love radiate from her tiny frame. Yes, Clara, we really are. As night settled around them, it felt as if they were lit from within, a spark igniting others to join in their quest to create something enduring. And as laughter and discussions surged through the fairgrounds, Jake understood that this was only the beginning. They stood on the brink of a new chapter, not just for their community, but for his family, united in hope, love, and determination. Let us pull together. Join us in this journey of transformation. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, because it makes a difference. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Your voice matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait, not even one more second to share. This is the moment to show your support for our community.